Hey you guys, Erin here at EatMoveRest and welcome back to sunny California where we will be spending our Thanksgiving holiday this year. Today we're bringing you 3 brand new Thanksgiving and holiday recipes. Number 1 on the menu, we've got a butternut squash, pomegranate, and quinoa salad. Number 2, we've got a root veggie and apple stuffing. And then number 3, like I said, we are gonna make some apple crisp. These recipes are effortless, so delicious. In fact, most of your friends and family won't even notice they are in fact plant-based. So even though it's just going to be Dusty, Max, and I, and Bo eating our Thanksgiving feast, we are indeed going to cook quite the spread. So some of the go-tos that are just non-negotiable every year are a delicious garlic smashed potatoes. You can also sub cauliflower. We've got an amazing recipe for that, as well as a good stuffing and some roasted root veggies. This year we're taking our stuffing and our roasted root veggies and doing a mash-up. So we're gonna get into that recipe shortly. And then of course, something to replace your turkey or your protein or your meat. So last year we actually did a really fun lentil loaf video, which turned out so good. And then finally comes dessert. We've got a delicious raw vegan pumpkin pie that is literally out of this world. It is so good and good for you. But this year we're gonna try our hand at some apple crisp. So we have plenty of Thanksgiving and holiday videos and we will pop them below so you can find all of those recipes that I just mentioned. But today we're bringing you 3 brand new Thanksgiving and holiday recipes. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. We're gonna jump right into it. For the roasted apple and root vegetable vegan stuffing, you will need about 10 slices of bread and you'll wanna chop it into about inch-sized pieces. We are using a whole grain sprouted organic Ezekiel bread. You'll also need 2 large sweet potatoes cubed, 2 medium apples diced, 2 carrots sliced, 6 garlic cloves chopped up nice and small, 1 onion diced, and 3 stalks of celery thinly sliced, as well as 3 cups of vegetable broth. To flavor it, you'll want to use salt and pepper to taste, and then the traditional Thanksgiving spices, which include rosemary, sage, and thyme. Right here, this is what we've got on hand. This is herbes de Provence. So we'll be using that. First step is to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, chop all of your ingredients, and then we're gonna pop our veggies and our apples into a baking dish, put a little bit of liquid in there, cover it with foil, and we're gonna bake it for about 30 minutes and we'll stir it halfway through. After about 20 minutes, give these a little mix and then pop them back in for another 20. You can check them with a toothpick to see when they're tender. Next, you'll want to take your vegetable broth and add it to a large pot and heat it on medium or low. Finally, we're gonna add our dried out bread into our warmed vegetable broth, then the other veggies, mix it all up and add any more seasoning or spice to your liking and serve it up. Moving on to recipe number 2, we are making a butternut squash, pomegranate, and quinoa salad with a maple tahini dressing. For this recipe, you will need 2 to 3 cups of cubed butternut squash, 1 cup of dry quinoa, this is already cooked up, a half cup of pomegranate arils, a half cup of pecans, about 3 leaves of dino kale, and you will want to destem this. And then for the dressing, you'll need 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, a 1/4 cup of tahini, and 1½ tablespoons of maple syrup. The first step is to roast your butternut squash at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which coincidentally is the same temperature for our other root veggies, so you could almost start both of these recipes at the same time, which is super convenient. I'm going to add just a little bit of water. This will help keep them from getting too dried out. So we're gonna pop them in the oven for, again, about 15 minutes, mix halfway through and do another 15 minutes. Meanwhile, you'll want to cook your 1 cup of quinoa on the stovetop. While everything else is cooking up, we're gonna make up our tahini maple dressing. We'll put our 1/4 cup of tahini in a big dish along with a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar and our 1½ tablespoons of maple syrup. You can also add a little bit of water if your tahini is very thick. Mine's a little bit thick since it was towards the bottom of the jar. Whisk it until it's one smooth consistency and then you're good. Everything is almost ready, so I'm gonna add the quinoa, pomegranate, and kale into a dish along with the pecans. And then when the butternut squash is ready, we're gonna let it cool a little bit and then stir it in. We're gonna add our cooked squash into the mix. You can either mix your dressing into the whole entire dish or you can set it on the side and just drizzle it on your own individual plate. Moving on to dessert, we're now going to be making our apple crisp. Let's take a look at the ingredients. For the apple base or the filling, you will need 4 peeled, cored, and chopped Granny Smith apples, a dash of pink Himalayan salt, a 1/3 cup of maple syrup, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. Add in our maple syrup, our salt, and our cinnamon. Mix them together really nicely with our apples. And then we're gonna cook the apples on the stove top so we can get them to the right tenderness. It makes it a lot easier that way before we pop them in the oven. For your oat crisp topping, you will need a 1/2 cup of rolled oats, 1 tablespoon of oat flour, about a 1/4 cup of chopped walnuts, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. We're gonna add our dry ingredients into a mixing bowl and then we're gonna drizzle our maple syrup in along with it. So now we're gonna use just a little bit of cornstarch and water to create what is called a slurry. So essentially this is going to make it a little bit more syrupy. You will need 1 to 2 teaspoons of water and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. So we're gonna spread the apples to the edges of the pan now that they're cooked up. We're gonna add our water and cornstarch to the middle of the pan, heat it for about 3 minutes until it thickens, stir everything together, and then we're gonna put the apples into a baking pan, and then we're gonna add our oat crust on top. Now that we've got our ooey gooey apples in the base and we've topped with our oat crisp, we're gonna pop it in the oven for 15 minutes. Now it is normal for your apple crisp to bubble up and it may bubble over, so I recommend lining a baking sheet and setting your dish onto that. All right, you guys, this is the final product for our butternut squash, pomegranate, and quinoa kale salad. It's a mouthful. It tastes amazing, I can guarantee that. And here is the final product for our apple and sweet potato stuffing. How good. And last but certainly not least, our apple crisp. So I hope you guys enjoyed making and baking with me today, and I'm wishing you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving, happy holiday season. Of course, we'll see you again before then, but we wanted to give you ample time to be able to get familiar with a couple new recipes, try them out, so that come holidays, you will have the perfect recipes to wow your family and friends with. You guys, these are awesome. Like, these are definitely going to become new staples in the Stanczyk household. Let me know in the comments below which one you're most excited to try out. Leave us some love down there as well. You can follow Dusty and I daily on Instagram at Erin Stanczyk, at dbstanczyk. You'll be able to see what we're up to on the daily. Hit that subscribe button up in the corner and join us here at the EatMoveRest headquarters. Make sure that bell is clicked to turn on notifications. Give this video a thumbs up. It really helps our channel out. And as always, share it with a friend or family member who you think might enjoy it too. Until next time, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
We're Dusty, Erin, Max, and Bo, and we're the Stanczyks.
We aspire to live a plant-centric, faith-forward, healthy lifestyle and welcome all of the adventures that accompany it. Join us every week as we blend, chop, juice, run, lift, ride, and master our minds in between on the ultimate quest to find better balance, deeper connection, and true happiness within.